All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Morelia Python Radio. And tonight, we're talking to Girls with Scales, a.k.a. Summer Grace Mitchell. We're going to be talking Morelia, rough scales, all kinds of Morelia talk tonight, all different ways. Should be cool. But first, Owen.
Yes.
I have to congratulate you on hatching out some.
Thank you.
Some rare colubrids.
They're not as rare as I thought they were originally, but they are so cool, dude. They're big babies. They're huge.
Yeah,
and they have giant.
Well, what are we talking about before you get into a whole diatribe about?
Listen, I was. There were very few things that are gonna make me run around my snake room like giggling at a really high, like, and that was we got Mad Hog babies. So
cool.
So far there are 3 that are out of the egg, and there are 2 more that are still in the egg. Dude, these things Freddy Krueger those eggs. Like, they do slices all up and down, back to front of the egg, like little ones. And then they just sit in the egg, and then they constantly just are moving around in this egg, and there's nothing left in this egg except for them. Like, you know, when a baby carpet hatches and they come out, there's there's a lot of yolk, there's a lot of other stuff. This thing was nothing. It's like a monitor. Like, it was just eventually it was an animal wrapped in like saran wrap. Like, there was nothing left in there. It was just baby snake. And they eventually came out, and they're alert. They're running around. They're doing all the falsehood stuff, and they're all hissy and puffy.
Already?
Yes, I love it. It was fantastic. They're all pissed off. It's tiny little things. It's adorable, but they're such big babies, and I'm like, oh my god, yeah. I was. People are like, are you selling any? No, they're all mine. Like, I'm keeping all of these, but they are so cool. Yeah. So far we have.
How many did you hatch out?
So far we have 3 out of the egg, and I got 2 more in the egg still that are just kind of chilling, which they could be outside of the egg now. I have to go downstairs later and check again for like the 5th time today. But so far I got 1 boy, 2 girls.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
very cool.
I'm excited about that.
What else do you got on the docket to hatch out
soon? Olive pythons are due any day.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be my 2nd clutch of olives, and then I got a small clutch of tiger carpets, and then I have the clutch that from the ocelot girl that I got from you, crossed with my jungle stripe male. And then way in the future, I have rhino babies. So it's like there's this big gap between when the pythons are done and when the rhinos are going to finally hatch. So
they'll be hatching once we start cooling down.
Probably, yeah, and that whole thing again. So, yeah. So that'll end my season right there. Is I got a ton, which I got to take pictures of all the stuff this week, because I need to try to figure out, because I think out of that Exanic Jag clutch, I only have 1 Exanic Jag, and it's a male. Everything else doesn't look Exanic enough to me. It doesn't have like the white eyes or the bluish color. So,
okay.
Yeah. But we'll see about the other stuff. Like, I have some other Exanics, and then I have some cool looking caramel shit too, and some really nice tigers and stuff like that. So I got to start taking pictures of animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I was saying that the other day. I haven't taken a picture of a snake, and I can't tell you.
You don't sell or breed snakes anymore. You just sit here and, like, I don't know, read books and
I'm a snake keeper.
You watch your lizard like walk from one rock to another, and and you start writing it down. So
So we're gonna talk about this when we get Summer on here. But so one of the things that I constantly go back and forth with, and we've had this debate, and is like, the whole YouTube thing and the reptile thing, the clickbait and all this kind of stuff, right? So it's like, but here's the thing, right? Yesterday, I usually don't watch the typical YouTube videos. Actually, Summer works for Justin Kobelka, and I do watch his, because it's not like the
they haven't like blown up the retake.
It's very professionally done.
Yeah.
It's not about anything other than, the guy is a master when it comes to making cool looking ball pythons. I know, Owen. I know
it's fine.
Yeah.
I can.
But I'm telling you,
appreciate it.
His ball pythons are another level, man. They're just like they're another level, and I'm curious to hear what Summer has to say about like being able to look at them every day. But anyway, so it was me and my wife who were watching. I was just watching YouTube, and Kenan, which I don't typically watch, but he has this huge enclosure. I mean, this thing is huge. This enclosure is humongous for these water monitors, right? Yeah. And he introduces his male in with his female and has like this river system that's flowing through it. And it's just like, but you're watching the intelligence of these things is just mind blowing. I mean, dude, and I'm sitting there and I'm going like, they're like dogs almost. Like they're coming when they're called, and he's, he's feeding them, and like that you can see them interacting with the female, and like how she's like hiding from him, and then how they like he's going around and he finds her, or he can smell her and he's looking for her, and like, dude, and I go to change it because I think at this point my wife is just bored to tears, right? Because we're watching this for like 20 minutes, and I change it, and she's like, "What are you doing?
Go back."
And I was like,
"I want to see the lizards."
I said, she's like, "That was really cool." So it made me just take a step back, right? And I thought, like
she wants something.
At the end of the day. No, it's not even that. It's just the idea that of somebody that doesn't appreciate the intelligence, the social aspect, the the thing that we all love about reptiles, and I mean, it's my wife. I live and breathe reptiles all day long. You know what I mean? So it's like she has to. She gets it through osmosis.
Yeah, but eventually it'll go. Yeah.
But she wasn't fascinated by it, so it made me think like, is that really the end game? You know what I mean? Like, isn't the end game to get people to have a different like change their view at least a little bit about reptiles and whatnot. So I don't know, but we'll get into that. But one more thing I just have to announce in case you missed it. Field Herping episode number 2 is up.
It's so cute.
So like go check that out.
Episode. It's adorable.
Listen, you. I made this whole thing, and I can take it all down.
Rip it. I will take it away. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's we talked to another great YouTuber, Lou Boyer, and the interesting thing about Lou is that he is an airline pilot. And I don't know why he reminds me of Bill Stiegel, but he just does. He's just this whole persona. His whole thing is just
be terrified to get into a plane that was being flown by Bill Stiegel.
By Bill Stiegel?
I don't think I would allow it. I've been in a car with that man. I don't know.
It's the most unique herping situation ever because he gets to herp.
Yeah.
On his like way he's laying over for the next flight.
That's amazing.
And like he's going to all these crazy places in like, he's going to Japan and Thailand and China and like dude, it's nuts. So
that is awesome.
You should check that out. I think that's all I got for now. So let's get this going and get Summer on here. Okay. Summer, how you doing?
Hey,
welcome
I'm good.
to
How are
Morelia
you
Python Radio.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Well,
I guess first we have to say congratulations on your engagement, right?
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys so much. It was a long time coming.
Awesome.
Don't say that. But that's awesome.
This guy's what are you?
I don't.
A couple months away from getting married?
No, dude, years. Are you kidding me? Like
years.
It's going to be October 2022. Remember, that's why you're not allowed to go. You're not allowed to go to Australia in 2022, or
we can't go looking.
No, you must push that. If you go to Australia in 2022, if you miss my wedding in 2022 to go to Australia to look for rough scales, we will never speak again. So No, sir.
What if he brings you back a rough scale, though?
I will forgive him after he gets out of prison. So
yes.
But yeah, those are the points. Those are the costs. I'm trying to figure out how to put snakes on a wedding registry. If I figure it out, Summer, I will let you know. So
yeah, let me know. I need to know.
Can't be that hard. So
you don't want the snakes. You want the caging and UV lights and all this kind of stuff.
Makes
you know
a good
what I mean?
point. I can get the snakes. It's the other shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
can you open up a registry with inland reptile?
I think you can. Nick, that's
Nick,
a corner he
Nick
hasn't
has
got.
A way.
He's got to have that. It's fine. So we can figure that out.
Very cool.
Anyway, Summer, every time we have somebody new on the show, we of course want to hear, how you stumbled into this insane world. So what got you started into reptiles?
So I like dinosaurs. No, I'm just kidding. I did not like dinosaurs. I have a slightly different, interesting sort of way in that my mom is an animal person. Okay. And so I grew up with tons of animals of all shapes and sizes. Any kind of animal you can think of. She likes it all. Cool. And we had it all. So we had horses, we had emus, we had peacocks, we had fish, we had lizards, we had turtles, we had frogs, we had basic cats, dogs, you name it. Mm-hmm. So reptiles were never an other thing to me. They were always just another animal, just like all the other ones we had. And so I always liked them, but I didn't really have like a specific interest in them growing up. I just liked all animals until for my, I should say that specifically my mom had some boa constrictors growing up too. So we had big snakes in the house, and there's a picture of me when I'm like 5, like holding a giant boa. So like it was just always normal. And then when I turned 11, my 11th birthday, my mom took me to a local pet store that we had that she knew the guy, she'd gotten parrots from him and stuff. And she was like, why don't you pick out an animal for your birthday? Mm-hmm. And so they had happened to get in a litter of boas. And I'm sure it was like some kind of I'm sure they were like horribly.
Like,
who knows where they were from.
Bag, yeah.
But because this would have been like the early 2000s. Right. So they had this litter of like freshly baby boas. And my mom was like, oh, look at those. Like, do you want to get a snake? And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's get one. And she was like, okay, but it's going to be your thing. Like, so you're going to have to go home and research it. And I was like, cool. So I did. And this was 2004. So the internet was a thing, but not obviously like it is now. But that was major like forum era.
Yep.
So me, little summer, 6th grade summer, well, before 6th grade even, I went on and just made accounts and lied about my age and went on all these forums and started researching to learn about the boa. And I uploaded pictures like 200 by 400 resolution pictures. And I was chatting with all these people, and my first screen name was Boa Babe 448. So if you ever see that across the internet and the Wayback Machine, that's me. And yeah, so that was basically my entry into reptiles and into the hobby kind of at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting because I don't know, it was very much like diving in the deep end in the sense that as soon as I got that one snake and I started researching it, I was immediately like, oh, everybody has ball pythons, everybody has leopard geckos, everybody has bearded dragons, everybody has crested geckos. Oh, I have to have all these things too. And so the addiction aspect of it started then.
I was going to say, it sounds like you jumped in the deep end with both feet. Like I had my first boa to the forums. Whoa, right. Like you skipped a lot of steps.
No. Exactly. And I was very unsupervised on the internet. So I literally would, my parents had just gotten divorced. So I think my mom was trying to be nice to me. So I started seeing all these cool animals. And again, my mom loves animals too. So I started buying stuff online, and I wasn't buying it. I would ask my mom, but I mean, I was finding the breeders and finding, getting all the information, and I would type up a little kind of request for an animal, with everything that would be required, how to take care of it. And then who I was going to get it from and how much it costed. I can't talk, how much it cost. And and I would give it to my mom, and because I was also kind of I'm I'm not now, but I was really shy when I was a kid and I was scared of rejection. So I would like slip it under her door at night and like she'd find it in the morning.
It's a little dissertation on the animal that you want and you just slide it under the door.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So I built up a little bit of a collection that way when I was in middle school. And I started a website for myself because I was going to be a snake breeder. So I had I had a domain name and everything.
Oh God, it's all coming back to me. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So heavensentherps.com. That was me.
It's hilarious because you're doing this in 2004, 2005, in middle school, and I'm doing it like pretty much at the same time in college. Like it is right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And so that's my villain origin story.
Good. It's a nice one. It's, I assume, after that comes the like volcano layer of something along those lines, and true villain away. Yeah,
world domination.
Of course. Yeah, as it should. So, all right. So, was the boa the thing that kind of clicked you into it, or was there a specific animal that really you can kind of trace it back as like this was the linchpin that's caused the avalanche?
I think it was that first snake.
Okay.
I had, a connection with him for whatever reason. And I also was going to the library and getting every book on reptiles and anything I could find. And there was something about the boas that I liked. I don't know if it was because, like I mentioned, my mom had a pair of boas when I was really little. And so I don't know if it was that, or I just thought he was a cool snake. I got some ball pythons, and I actually, I got a couple of them. I think I had 3 at one point, just normals, because at that point, an 11-year-old could not afford a pastel. It was like $5,000. So I had some ball pythons. I had the beardies. I bred leopard geckos and failed miserably because I broke all the eggs.
Oh.
And that was the end of my breeding career back then. But yeah, it was, I got into a bunch of stuff. Anything that was really popular and really accessible, I got into it. But it was really the boa. Like, I think the boa was it. And then I kind of got out of it for a while. I always kept a couple of things. I had a bearded dragon for a really long time. Actually, she just passed away. She was like 17 years old. So I had her for a long time.
But a lot of people don't gauge that. Like you had a 17-year-old bearded dragon, and that's awesome.
I got her when I was 11.
Right.
Yeah, I got her that same year.
But it's almost like I almost guarantee you that a lot of people would be surprised to hear that a bearded dragon lives to be 17 years old.
I was surprised because
still going
now, like the husbandry that was recommended on the forums and on in the hobby in 2004, 2005 is not what is recommended today.
No.
You know what I mean? It's similar, but I mean, a lot of things have changed.
We learned.
And and so, by today's standards, you'd think she wouldn't have lasted 2 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Considering how much has changed. But,
how she was kept versus, gotcha.
In the beginning, But she made it, so.
Yeah, I mean.
R.I.P.
I kept one of my oldest carpet pythons was in a bin underneath my dorm room bed in college, and was living off of a CVS human heat pad. I was a horrible person.
All of my stuff was off human heat pads in the beginning.
Yep. We're the reason they put those things. Exactly. We're the reason they put those things to have auto shutoffs.
I know, right? So
I often wonder, so you had the boa, but what made you change to pythons? Like what drew you to pythons?
So I back then, I had looked into the carpets because I looked into everything you could possibly get. But everybody said they were bitey, and I was a kid, and I was like, I don't want something that's mean and bitey, even though they're really pretty. Sure. So I kind of stayed away from it. And then as I got older, I got rid of a lot of my stuff, and I was down to just a couple of animals while I was in high school and college because moving around, we moved a couple times, but I would always periodically, sorry, somebody just called me. I would always periodically kind of like daydream about these species that I would want. And so I would kind of like every now and then go on and like look at the forums and log back in and check on what was happening. And I would look up how much cages cost now and kind of make a little, like I did when I was a kid, like I'd make a little plan for myself of like how I was going to get this animal. I would never get it. But I was really interested in Angolan pythons for a while.
Right.
For some reason, because I had the ball pythons and I just, they weren't my thing. I don't know why. Like I've had 5 total over my lifespan. And I got them when I was a kid and I didn't really like them. So I got rid of them. And then I tried to get another one because I thought maybe I'll like this one. I didn't really like it.
Keep trying.
And then I tried again and got another one and I didn't really like it. But I kind of thought people said the Angolan pythons were like similar to the ball pythons.
They're just bumpy.
But like a little bit more like a boa personality wise. And then bumpy, which was cool, and like a little bit more rare, which was kind of appealing. So I liked those for a while and was looking into them. And then really what happened was honestly, you guys, I moved out on my own finally. And I had a king snake, I had my beardy, and I had a cresty. And then I was like, I want to get like some more stuff now that I'm in my own place and my parents can't complain and I'm financially on my own. And I thought about I was like, well, I love boas. I'm going to look back into boas. And so I was looking up Vin Russo. And I think I came across, you guys did an episode with him, like a long time ago. Like it was back in the archives, but I found it just searching for stuff and I listened. And in that, I'm sure at some point you guys started talking about carpet pythons.
Yeah, that is what we do.
I was like, oh, these guys are okay. I liked their, you guys had a fun rapport or whatever. So I listened to more of your episodes, and I was like, they don't make it seem like carpet pythons are evil. Like they're not acting like they're like. I mean, maybe some of them are, but they're not acting like they're like. I mean,
there's always that one in the group where like, and that one there, he's a dick. But anyway,
exactly. Yeah. So once I was listening to you guys, I just did my usual thing of researching. I was still looking into the boas. I was looking into everything, anything that seemed interesting, I would research it. And I started researching the carpets and I was like, these are really cool and they're very kind of boa-like in a way, but they stay a little bit smaller than the kind of boas I like, or unless I got like a Central American boa, which I'm just not really into for some reason. I just started looking into it, and then kind of happenstance that I live 5 minutes away from Casey Cannon.
Oh, that is dangerous.
So it kind of two things happened. I don't know if do you guys know Jade Alexandra?
Yeah.
Jade? Yeah. She also lives or used to live near me. I mean, not super near, but we live around Atlanta, metro Atlanta area for a while. And so when I first started kind of getting interested in Morelia, I like to be hands-on with things. I used to volunteer at a pet shop, and that was how I would get to try out species. Was I would just clean their cages at the pet shop and kind of interact with them and be like, do I like it? Do I not? And I think that was what had kind of stopped me from pursuing the carpet pythons before, was that I'd never seen one in person. So I didn't have anything to judge. The reptile shows here, there's no representation at all for anything Morelia. We have a couple people that work with them, but they don't go to shows. So literally, if you go to a Repticon, you may get like a weird like flipper table that has like one
carpet,
really ugly one or something. But that's it. So I asked on our Georgia, we have a really good Georgia community Facebook group, and I asked on there, does anybody work with this? And she posted like she had all these scrubs and like stonewash brettles and like all this cool stuff. She had a roughy, and I was like, holy crap, can I come clean cages for you and just like hang out with your snake?
Why is there no one in Pennsylvania that wants to come clean my cages? Like what?
Yeah, so I went to her house and she showed me around her snake room and we talked, and then I ended up pet sitting for her a couple times when she went out of town. So I got to interact with the different, a bunch of different stuff, and I kind of realized how cool it was and how much I wanted it. And she mentioned to me that Casey Cannon lived nearby, and I heard about Casey online and seen, I interacted with him, but I never realized it for some reason. And it turns out he literally lives 5 minutes up the road, like on the same exit off the highway as me. So we met up, and he was just going to show me some snakes because he was like, I don't really have, I always like to talk snakes. I'll just bring some stuff and show it to you, like in the parking lot of this aquatic center. So we did, and he had a hypo brettles.
Oh, that's not
and
fair.
At that point, I was not, I was kind of thinking brettles were going to be, I was kind of, I live in a small house, and I was kind of like, maybe that's like too big for me, right? Like just with what I can manage right now. But he offered it for me as a really good deal. And I was like, I don't want to pass it up. He was really nice to me, and I really loved the snake, so I got it.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it.
Again, with 2 feet in the deep end, you went directly to typo bredli? Like, Jesus.
Yeah. And around the same time, I also got a poplin from Jacob Brotz, his like first collection.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I got one of those. Yeah. So
okay.
I have that snake still, but that snake hates me.
Oh, well, yeah. But
I don't know what it is about like F1. I bet it's probably like, from captive hatched stuff or whatever, but man, I don't know what it is, but they are just vicious as babies. The ones I have from Riley are vicious. The ones I produced, oh my goodness. I mean, they all chill out as they get older, but
Poplins just suck.
I don't know.
All right. Well, you just admitted.
Quiet you.
Well, that's kind of badass. So why don't you tell us what's the collection look like now?
So I pretty much I'm trying to grow slowly because one of the things that I did wrong when I first got into it as a child was I got way too much stuff too fast.
Yeah.
And I couldn't handle it because I was a child. And it just was not, it ended up with me having to get rid of things that I didn't want to get rid of, but I just couldn't handle it. So I didn't want to get in that situation. So I was very, very like overly cautious about like, I'm not doing impulse buys except for the one. But
no more impulse buys after this.
To my
There's
credit,
always exceptions to the rule.
Let's not go crazy here.
I will say that I had researched. I'd bought the complete carpet python. I'd been reading about. I knew everything about them, and I'd looked into them a whole bunch before then. It wasn't like I just saw this. I knew a bunch, but I wasn't planning on buying one.
Right. It was an unplanned purchase, not an impulse buy. Two different things.
Yeah, exactly. There's a difference. So anyway, so I can't remember what I was talking about. What was I talking about?
What the collection looks like now.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Okay, so I have a pair of Bruttles, a pair of Poplins, and I've got a king snake, and I've got a soon to be a pair of Super Dwarf retics. I've got a male and I have a female, but she's coming to me next week. She's going to be shipped next week.
Cool.
And then soon to be a pair of Ruffies. I have a male and then I have a female that's just, she's got to get started eating. But Ralph Polinsky has her.
Nice.
So she's on hold.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then wait, I feel like I have something else. Maybe I said it all. Oh, some geckos, gargoyle gecko.
Oh, and, cool. Gargoyles are nice.
Crested gecko. And then I had the beardy, but she passed. So. But yeah, so that's where I'm at now. So it's pretty small, but I'm doing that intentionally because I've decided not to do racks. I have a rack and I just didn't like not being able to see everything. So it's empty and I have a bunch of cages now. So I'm trying to kind of keep everything where I can house it as I get it instead of getting a bunch of stuff and then being like, oh no, I have 20 snakes that all need a cage all at once. Kind of trying to avoid that, so just getting little by little.
Responsible, like herp keeping. Like I need to get the cage first, then the animal. What? No, you buy the snake and then you scramble. Like
it's from lessons learned in the past.
Yeah, I'll give you that. So now that I
think I had to go through that like 4 times.
Thank you.
To learn that lesson.
Well, and that's. I mean, Eric, if you sat down and you did a full count of how many animals you have and. Like looking back at it, if somebody were to drop that many animals on me at once, I'd lose my freaking mind. But because it's been a slow burn, it's like that frog in the pot. I haven't realized that I've been boiling to death. And now I'm like 200 animals. Wait, what? Really? Yeah, I have that many? It's like, and that's.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too much. I don't know.
I like slow. I almost like slow, methodical collections over just having a crap ton of weird stuff. So I definitely dig that. So.
Yeah, I've been kind of acquiring like 1 to 2 every year, pretty much. Just very
smart,
curated, and like I said, not trying to not be impulsive.
Do you have are you approaching it from a breeding aspect where you're putting specific pairs that you want to breed, or specific animals that you want to breed together? And
yes and no.
Okay.
So I kind of approached it. So first of all, I do the opposite of what everybody says because I get males first. Because I don't know if I'm gonna like it enough to want to breed it. And it's harder to get lone females, number one.
Yes.
And then second of all, usually males stay smaller, so it's easier to house a male. So I figure if I get it and it's like maybe I like it, but I ever think about breeding it and just want it as a pet, a male's probably going to be better to have, cheaper, and, stays a little smaller. Plus, I try not to buy, like, I don't ever want to like buy a group of animals and then realize that I hate that species. You know what I mean? Like I would rather have the one and then be like, I'm stuck with you. It's okay. I'll deal with it. You're just one animal.
Right.
Or like it's one animal I have to try to rehome, which I try not to rehome, but I do, if I had a ball python, she was a spider and I just couldn't stand watching the spinning. So I had her for a couple years and I was like, I'm not into this species. She's a sweet snake, but I just can't. I mean, I heard you talking about that, Eric, last week regarding the Jags. Like you just can't, after a while, I just couldn't watch it anymore. And I was like, she needs to go to somebody else that's got it better, can deal with it more, because it was just not fun. But yeah, so yes and no. I have dreams of breeding one day on a small scale. And so I try to be very specific with what I do buy. So like every pair that I have is a pair that I think would be a good pair.
Okay.
I mean, the Roughies, like a Roughie's a Roughie.
It is.
Everything else has been specifically bought to kind of be something that would be worth breeding and not just like totally random things mismatched for no reason.
Right. Just not throwing Jello at the wall. It's like, like the pairs will complement each other. The babies will be good looking for the majority. There'll always be that one in the group that's like mud, but whatever. I got you.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I have a thought, a topic to see what you guys think about this as I throw it out there. The whole idea that like if you try out a species, right? Do you think that there's a little bit of a taboo that like you can't, like if you buy a reptile and you actually end up not liking it, or it doesn't work with whatever, or your setup, or how you have things, it seems like there's a little bit of a taboo in saying like, this doesn't work for me and I'm going to move it on to somebody else. What do you think?
I'm 50-50 on it, because I think on the one hand, I don't like the idea of like, and this is like kind of cliche to say, but like, like disposable pets, like it's not a toy. It's a living thing that we should be respectful of. And I think that you should go into buying animals of any kind with the mindset of like, I'm responsible for this life now. You know what I mean? And it's so with that regard, I do try, like me personally, like I'm so careful with what I do buy that I've often thought about it for like a year before I actually got it. So the idea of rehoming it or
that's impressive.
Getting it, I'm a little neurotic. I might have OCD. My doctor.
Just let it go. It's fine.
And so so the idea of then kind of turning around and just being like, oh, who wants it? $50, here it is. Like, that doesn't sit well with me. But at the same time, I try to look at it this way. First of all, if it's like a health concern, like the animal's not thriving with you, I think it's in the best interest of the animal to find it a home where it can thrive.
Yeah,
and that's a legitimate thing. I mean, there are some houses, some climates, some rooms, some people that the animal just doesn't do well with. And if that's the case, go get it somewhere where it's going to do well and have a good life. But then also I think I kind of think of it from this perspective. Is there somebody who will enjoy this animal more than me? Like with the ball python that I had to rehome. I didn't have to rehome. I chose to rehome. I found a family who she really was like the sweetest snake ever. She was a spider. She was real derpy, but she was so sweet. Like you could touch her, which is weird for a ball python because they're usually really head shy. You could touch her anywhere. You could do anything. She was very calm and curious and just chill. So I found a family that was just looking for a pet, that just wanted a snake that they could do that with, that they could let their kids hold, that they weren't gonna have to worry about, negative behaviors or anything like that. And I always had a little bit of trouble with her eating. Not enough to be like an issue. Like she grew and she was fine, but she was always like a little finicky, which also was annoying.
Yeah.
Apparently when they got her, she was like slamming food. So it ended up being actually better for her for whatever reason. But that was a case where I felt like, you know what? I don't enjoy this snake. It makes me feel bad to have her. Like it's not making me, it's not enriching my life to have her. I'm kind of keeping her out of obligation because I feel bad that I bought the snake and now don't really want her, but I don't want to throw her in the trash or whatever. But there's this person who is actually going to enjoy her, and like that's going to benefit their life. So if that's the case with a project, like let's say somebody gets into, I don't know, king snakes or something, and they're like, you know what, I hate king snakes. Like I thought I was going to like this. It looked really cool when I saw it at so-and-so's house, and then I get it and they just suck for me. Mm-hmm. But like maybe if you can find somebody who's like, king snakes are my thing, and give it to somebody else, or somebody that is new to reptiles and trying the same thing. I don't know. I try to think of it that way rather than like, I'm getting rid of this, I hate it. Like you're moving it on to somebody who will have a more of an appreciation for it than you do.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a really long-winded way to say basically that, but yeah.
But no, I like that idea better because I mean I've tested or tried many different species that have just not worked for me. And I was always I won't know till I try, but it is definitely hard to rehome those kinds of things or to move them along if they don't fit in. And there's always been those ones that just don't fit in with my either way of keeping or what I have going on downstairs or what I can provide. So more and more now, I feel like I need to you always need to research before you do it. And I would say that in my younger years, I was definitely I'll buy it and figure it out. And that never worked out well for either me or the animals. I spent a crap ton of money on a bunch of animals that didn't really fit into my whole scheme of things. And ones that, they obviously might have not done the best because of my ignorance of how to keep them, which if I'd read a simple book or something like that, I would have figured it out. So there's been I think I've gotten a lot better with the whole pausing, researching, talk to the people who keep the animals, bug somebody who's raised and bred those animals and all that, taking the animal from like hatchling to breeding and stuff like that, figure out what you got to do and figure out if it works for you. And then maybe think about getting in. And like you said, like just get one, dip your toe in and stuff like that. And I always find out, and it's something I learned from Eric, that if you're interested in an animal, talk to the person who's like big into it and breeding it and stuff like that. And then get one, test it. And then if you don't like it, give it back to the person that gave it, like sold it to you. Like, just like if you have that connection where it's like, cool, if this doesn't work, it's going right back to you. Like it is one of those things where, it's to always come back to somebody who appreciates it. So
I guess my perspective is a little bit jaded because of being in a podcast where I'm talking to
people who
a lot of reptile keepers. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to sort of move something like that. You know what I mean? So like with Timor pythons as an example, like I tried them multiple times,
several times,
such beautiful snakes. And like, I can't. So I don't know. I think like my generation of keeper had we didn't learn these lessons as fast. And maybe it's because we screwed it up so many times that like newer keepers are looking at that, which is good, because they're researching and they're not just impulse buying things. Because I even find myself doing it even now, right? Like I come back from the Texas trip and I'm like, I could keep some colubrids, and then I'm like, no, what are you doing? No,
don't do it. Yeah, no.
I talk myself out of stuff all the time.
Nah.
Yeah, it's hard because there's so many cool things, and it's like trying to keep foot. That's why I always tried to have like this breeding, my breeding Bible, where it was like a book where I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get this, and then in order to breed this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm going to be able to fit it in these cages and this and that. I'm going to keep this rack and all this stuff. But
how'd that work out for you? Because I tried to do that this year, and I don't know if I felt like it was just a pipe dream.
I think I'm just at the point. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious what you think about this summer. Like, I think that I think maybe we probably had part of it, but like this whole idea that you have to breed to be something legitimate in the hobby. And I don't think that we did it intentionally by like just trying to promote people that breed. It just was something that was fascinating, and it was hard to find people that would talk about like natural history which is really what my passion is of animals.
Same.
Like you know what I mean? Like to me, that's where I geek out. Like when we did the rough scale episode, it was just I was in my glory. I mean,
Your
like
element,
trying to research and find out all these things about it and everything. Like to me, if I kept rough scales and they never bred, I would be okay with that.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I just there are carpets I'm looking at and I'm like, there could be a rough scale in your cage. And there might be. Like,
so I think I kind of like this idea that the hobby is sort of shifting to a more keeper centric, and maybe I'm just in different circles and it's not, but it seems that way. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I do think that there's definitely different circles. I think the Morelia world and offshoots of that, like, the bull and I and the Somalia, that kind of stuff, I think definitely, and it seems in concert with a more natural history, behavior, naturalistic display kind of, it seems to go hand in hand. The more that people shift to putting their animals in cages where they can see them and watch them, the more they downsize their collection so they can have more of their collection in cages where they can see them and watch them.
Yeah.
And the less important breeding becomes, because there's an element of enjoyment that you're getting out of the animals just from doing that. And I mean, we're all serotonin based, right? We're all just kind of looking for whatever kind of tickles our fancy. And so I think once that starts tickling your fancy, then the other stuff, doesn't do it as much or is not as necessary, because you get that enjoyment from the animal in a different way. So I think that goes hand in hand. I see a lot of that in the carpet python stuff. Like there's so many people who are just keeping, if you go on the Facebook groups, which good luck if you do. But they, it's a lot of people I would say it's majority keepers and minority breeders.
Yeah.
Now it's completely reversed in a lot of the ball python world. Now it's hard because you have segments to the hobby.
Yeah.
You have the quote unquote hobby, which I feel doesn't include pet keepers really.
Yeah, they're kind of like a branch. It almost feels like they're a branch
they're
like
kind
below,
of their
like
own
you're
little
here.
bubble. Yeah. So you have the hobby with reptile keepers, and then you have pet keepers, which are kind of their own thing. And then you have people who breed, which is usually also within the reptile keeper kind of thing. But for ball pythons in that sphere, aside from pet, it's majority people who they think of themselves as a breeder, whether they are or aren't. They're trying to be a breeder.
I have 2.5 ball pythons. I'm a breeder. Wait, what?
Right. Their dreams are of breeding.
Right.
So, and I don't see that changing really. Or if it is, it's very slow to change. It seems that there are more people than ever wanting to breed.
It almost seems like, do you see somebody who's like a major, like I almost don't see somebody who does the majority of ball pythons or leopard geckos or even bearded dragons probably going out of their way to make large naturalistic setups.
No, not for those species.
Not exactly. It's like, it wouldn't be for those species, right? Like I don't think that wouldn't be the one that you would do it for.
Fairy Tale Dragons, Ron St. Pierre's girlfriend. She does all that.
That is true.
She does, yeah.
Bearded Dragons Outside,
That
I listen to some podcasts with her.
Yeah, she's big time bearded dragon breeder. But yes, I
that's one. We got one.
You are correct. Yeah. It's the exception, not the rule. Right. I wonder what it is about those species that makes people
it's hard
drawn to that.
I think it's hard to say, because I had a ball python and I still stuck her in a 4-foot cage, and was trying to watch her climb, and she was doing all the weird loopy stuff. But I don't know. I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, because if you don't, because you have to do it once to see it. and to be like, oh wow, like once you have one snake in a cage, you're like, oh, I want to see all my snakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as long as they stay not, then you're gonna keep them that way because you don't really realize what you're missing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. Like you don't realize what you're missing. And it is true that ball pythons are not that, they are active very late at night, but they're not as active as, they're not as active as so many other species. They're pretty sedentary.
I would say that like some species are just not built that way. Like, you know, you're building a naturalistic setup for your Kenyan sand boa sounds like a great idea when you see them. I mean, like, it's
right. And
they're in there somewhere.
I'm sure they will occasionally. Like, I'm sure occasionally you'll see them, but it's not going to be the same as something else like
just hanging
an active monitor or something.
Exactly.
That's
it's not
always out.
Exactly. Yeah. So it will be cool.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's just going to be like, it's in there somewhere. Like, and that's fine. But I could see it being appealing to certain animals and not to others.
I think I think like a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but like I think people are drawn to ball pythons and say leopard geckos because of the genetic
playground
part of it.
Yeah,
100%.
And,
yeah,
and I think that sometimes naturalistic keepers kind of don't like the reason that they're not their draw is not the same, right? You know, because like if you're breeding ball pythons, you're fascinated. Like some people, like you look at Travis Wyman, right? I mean, he's a genetic wizard. I'm sure that he gets fascinated by how those genetics work, you know. And I think about to the early days of ball pythons, you know, like the banana and how that was like, what's going on with this, you know, and the debates that would well, even with carpets, right? Remember the tiger, hypobrettles,
caramel,
you know, all these things that weren't necessarily figured out. I think there's a certain you know, maybe a draw to sort of be the person that figures it out, you know, and like oh man, you know, I unlock this puzzle, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's like a mad scientist aspect to it, I think. Like what can I do? Like because I mean, obviously I work with Justin Kabilka, who is on the forefront of the ball python industry. And I sit in a room with him all day, every day. And he is, and I'm not saying this just because he's my boss and pays me, but he is like an actual genius when it comes to the ball python, the genetics. And it's not that he's a genetic genius. He's not like a Travis Wyman. He's not like a scientist, but he
has a vision.
Right.
He has an understanding of how things will interplay, and it's almost like it's an art form.
Yeah.
Like he's mastered the guitar or something. Like he's mastered how these things play off of each other, and he's always improvising to try to hit that next really cool thing that's never been done. But you know, this new musical idea. I'm using a bunch of music stuff because I know Eric plays guitar. But you know, I like it. He's riffing over, like he's trying out all this different stuff to see what he can make that's new and pushing the edge. And that is what he loves about it. And he loves other reptiles too. But that, I mean, for his business is like what drives him.
There's also
and I could really give two craps about ball pythons per se. Like I'm not really, you know, like it's not something that it's not your thing. Would pursue on a day-to-day basis. However, that being said, I am drawn to his videos because of that aspect that you're talking about. Like I am just my mind gets blown on like how does he see this? Like how is he able to like look at this and say, I bet you if I put these together, it's going to look like this. And then like, but it's not only just putting two genes together. Exactly. It seems like, and maybe you have more of an idea of how it works with them, but like, it seems like he's already like 5 steps ahead when he's putting these two snakes together. You know, like he's already way ahead, or like, you know, he has his idea of where it's going to go. And then like, I guess the excitement is when that snake hatches out of the egg, you're then looking at that snake and you're like, wow, it didn't turn out like I thought it would turn out. However,
still cool.
This would go really good with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then like, now you're off this other road.
There's a ton to keeping your head straight with ball pythons, like a ton of it. And I I don't really think I give him that much credit because I'm just like, oh, I got to remember his caramel jag, and every once in a while an albino or two, and it's like, but there's a shit ton, all that kind of stuff, and that's insane.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like you said, Eric. I mean, I'm not to speak for him, but just from my conversations with him.
Sure.
But it's also I think a lot more improvisational than a lot of people would think.
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, he is just kind of mixing paint. What's this going to do with that? And kind of see. I mean, he has an idea. He doesn't do things willy nilly. He does it because he thinks it'll be cool. Like he thinks we should do that if it works the way he thinks it's going to. But he doesn't. He doesn't know until he tries. And like you said, the baby might come out and be nothing like what he wanted, or it's an all white snake, or who knows what happens. And but I think for him, the thing that has allowed him to excel in the way that he has is not only that artistic ability that he just innately has, but he's also so smart about the business and the market and what to hold back, what to sell, when to buy new things, that kind of strategic element to it. That is what has allowed his collection to really surpass so many others, to allow him to be a couple of steps ahead. It's not necessarily that he is dreaming all these steps ahead. It's that he has the animals to try it with.
Yeah, it's a lot of
because he's been smart about because he's been smart about what he pairs together, what he keeps, what he sells, what he doesn't, all that good stuff.
Has any of that influenced how you keep, or how you envision a project, or how you want to take your reptile
what you'll
collection?
do with your babies in the future?
Yes and no. Okay. I love listening. He's doing so we have a Patreon, and he's doing like a whole series about the business, and basically he's just kind of telling everybody everything. Like, this is how I do it. This is how I did it. This is kind of my mindset. Well, sorry. And so I love listening to that. I sit there while he films it and I edit the videos. So I love hearing that and kind of trying to absorb it. Of course, it's all ball python focused, which I'm really not into personally. But, just from like a business reptile selling animals standpoint, it's great information. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway that I get is just very basic principles. And I'll tell you guys this one because I think it applies to all animals. But if you can buy it somewhere else, you don't need to hold it back. Like, there's no
very good
reason
point.
to hold it back.
Yeah.
Unless it's something you specifically wanted. Like, unless you were like, this is the animal that I wanted from this. Like, if you're doing in terms of morphs, line breeding and stuff is a little different.
Right.
But if you have a morph project and you're like, oh, I really want to hit a exanthic granite and you make it, then sure, keep it. But if you do that pairing and you don't hit it, but you get a bunch of double hets or whatever, and you're like, well, I should probably keep something back from this. Why? Sell those and use the money to buy what you actually wanted.
Or try the pair again next year, and then you'll hit it.
Right.
Yeah. Like, don't keep stuff just because you feel like you have to keep it. If it's not really what you wanted for your projects, then you're kind of losing money. It's better to turn like your failures into money that you can put towards progressing yourself than to just accept your fate as, oh, well, I didn't hit the odds that time. So that's
maybe
kind
next
of
year.
That's one of his big philosophies that I think applies to most species, and it's a good outlook that I think a lot of people don't take. A lot of people hold back something because they feel like they need to, or they hold back the best of the clutch, even though it's not the animal they needed or wanted.
No, you got to know where to draw the line. It's
right. Yeah.
I'm all for holding back
the
best of your clutch. Listen, I'm my best customer because things hatch at the egg. I'm like,
you should be too.
Like, I'll keep this. I'll keep it. I hatched out a gorgeous red tiger male. Gorgeous. I have 2 of them. I don't need another one. Like, I don't need a tiger male.
Well, I think this probably applies more to morphs, and I wish I would have learned that concept with the snow carpet project.
There you go. Yeah, that was a wonderful
keep it back. Oh,
yeah.
dear. Another. It seems like we're just talking about these ball python people tonight.
Weird, right?
Ozzy from Ozzy
Yep.
Boyd's, right?
Yep.
He's been doing some videos lately, and he's talking about the business. And one thing that, especially if you're doing morph breeding, right, you want to sort of always upgrade your stock. So meaning that like you're going to keep a smaller collection, right, overall, but the animals that you have are going to be top quality,
right,
and going to produce, you know what I mean? And like, you know, that's an interesting way to sort of to look at.
But then at the same time, if you have nice enough males, then no female is.
Yeah,
it's never a financial smart move to get rid of a female.
That is true,
because they're going to produce.
You always need plus.
Yeah, so but this leads me to my second. So like I do learn a lot from sitting and talking with him and listening to him talk. But then I also, my whole philosophy and kind of purpose for wanting to do reptiles and eventually wanting to breed a little bit is more of an educational standpoint. So in a lot of ways, it doesn't apply to me, although I would like to eventually maybe try to make money off of it. I don't know if it's possible with the way that I want to go about it. You know what I mean? I don't know how financially, like, I don't know that I will ever be able to be a millionaire from the way that I want to do it because of the type of animals that I want to keep, and the way that I want to keep them won't allow me to keep them in the volume that you would need to have them to probably be super having really great margins. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So when you say education, are you looking to do like educational talks or educating for yourself, like as far as learning how to breed them?
So I kind of, and it's funny because I don't know what I was listening to you guys. I felt like I heard one of you guys saying this literally today or yesterday. I was listening to a podcast at the gym and I was like, oh man, that's like exactly what I was just thinking. Was I feel like these species that I keep, like I said, I've curated them because I think that they are good species. I think they are,
I enjoy them.
For the most part. They are curious. They are not crazy big. They're not super small. They're not so fast. You know what I mean? You can handle them. They always eat. I just think they're a good species. They're pretty. They're visible a lot. And I don't know why they aren't more popular pets. I don't know why.
Yeah,
that's. I knew it was somebody's rant.
Yeah,
I don't know why they aren't more more popular in the pet trade. And I think that, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the pet segment of reptiles is I think very disjointed from the hobbyist and keeper, and I think partially that's our fault or for the way that we approach it. And so one of the things that I kind of am passionate about is like sharing how cool these species are with average people. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to just have a ball python or a corn snake. They're great too, but like
there's other stuff.
These are also awesome. And for a lot of people, depending on your personality, would potentially be way more enjoyable for you. So what I hope to one day be able to do is to breed so that I can use that in conjunction with like my YouTube channel, or, you know, just having some kind of a public persona to give people a source for the animals, along with telling them that they exist. You know what I mean? Because right now there's plenty of people that breed carpets and all that. It's not like there's a shortage of them, but you kind of have to know about them to know that they're there. You know what I mean? Like, you have to get into it, and then you realize that carpets are there. Whereas I kind of want to try to somehow, at least even just locally, like even like I said at the local Repticon, like nobody has carpets, nobody. And I'm not a huge Repticon fan, but a lot of people with their families that are buying a pet reptile go there, and they don't know that carpets are a thing. So, or Morelia or rough scales or whatever it may be. But so that's kind of what I would like to do with the breeding, is do that. And then I would want to have all my breeders and cages and stuff. So it's just going to limit, how many animals that I can have. So it'll probably prevent me from being like super giant big, but.
Yeah, but
I think too, like, I think the thing, and I remember, God, this was probably episode 4 of Morelia Python Radio.
Something along those lines, yeah.
John Battaglia, right? And
yep.
the thing that I loved about him was that he had such a small collection for somebody that had such a big presence in the Morelia community. Like everybody knows what a gamma jag is. Everybody, even if you don't like jags, you cannot deny that a gamma jag is just like, whoa, and he had such a small group of snakes to where he knew them on an individual basis. Whereas like, the thing that he, I remember talking to him at Tinley about this, and he was saying like, once you start to not be able to understand your individual animals, you have too many animals. You're losing something. You're losing something from the magic of keeping these things, because you're not allowing yourself to experience, certain things. Now, if you just want to be to your point, right? If you want to be somebody that is just a breeder and you want to make money at it and breed snakes for a living, well, then you're probably going to have to approach it in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because you do need it. But like, I think the idea of sort of bridging the gap between the pet world and I don't know, what would you call it? Breeder, hobby, you're calling it hobbyist world. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like how do you think that we could do a better job as the hobbyist side of it to do that?
It's hard because a lot of the pet stuff is really cringe. I'm not going to lie. You know what I mean? Right. Like it's like the hats on the snakes. I know. The mustache. Like let's get them out.
I have to go to the punching wall now. Excuse me. But
like it's a lot of it's awful.
It is.
And I'm not into that at all. But I think there's a certain level of empathy that we can kind of lack, because we try to, we recognize that that's like, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like, oh no. And in doing that, we want to separate ourselves from it, right? Rather than associate with it. And that's just, in a way it's cliquey. You know what I mean? It's like that kid at school wears weird clothes, so I don't really want to be hanging out with them. And maybe the kid's a weirdo. Maybe he's a serial killer. Maybe you have all the reasons in the world to not hang out with him. But the point being, I think trying to put yourself in the position of somebody who really doesn't know better, and because look, honestly, like if somebody wants to put a hat on their snake, it kind of sucks, but like you do you, I guess.
It. Yeah.
But like just being able to put yourself in the position of somebody who they know what they know and they don't know what they don't know, and allowing them the opportunity to learn in a way that is open and inviting, rather than mocking them, you know what I mean? And again, I'm guilty of it too, because I think, I'm just as guilty of it as anybody else. So I'm not trying to be like on some kind of high horse here or something, but I recognize this as an area where I want to do better, and I want to reach people who could be valuable members of the community, but they get shut out because they do things in a way that we kind of think is silly, or they ask dumb questions, or how dare you do XYZ, or you are an idiot. And you know what I mean? I just think, and that goes a lot, that to go along with that, there is for sure also an issue of like people not listening. You know what I mean? Like that's another
there is that. Yeah.
Like
so
like that's another like battle to cross, is like, you can't, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So there's always going to be the people who will put up a fight and not listen to your advice. But I think if we can approach it in the right way, that's what I'm trying to do, is just like approach it in a way where it's not condescending. So it doesn't cause that defensive reaction in people that causes them to say, you're an idiot. You're, well, my so-and-so told me this and you're wrong. And I know everything. And you're stupid, even though you've been breeding carpet pythons for 45 years. And I just got mine yesterday. If we can figure out a way to just approach it so that doesn't happen.
Right.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to do on my YouTube channel is make videos that are hopefully like, I keep saying inviting, but base level enough that it's not like something where somebody clicks on it and they're like, what are you talking about? And like cuts it off, but is also just kind of like just serious enough while also still being slightly enjoyable and entertaining, hopefully, to watch.
Yeah.
That it'll get somebody interested enough to research more.
You're bridging the gap.
And not just stop there. That's the goal. I don't know if I'm doing it, but I'm trying. All I can do is try.
But that's the thing is that a lot of times that we almost feel like the pet people, I don't know, the world, people who are just doing this as pets are ignorant, but it's not their fault that they're ignorant. It's just that this is what the information that is provided to them, and a lot of times it's wrong. I mean, heat rocks are still a thing. Why are they still a thing?
I was at the Schaumburg show and they did the USR auction and there was a heat rock for the auction.
No, and that's the thing is any normal person who their kid just decided they wanted a bearded dragon, they're going to walk into this pet store and they're going to say, what do I need? And this person who might not even ever keep reptiles is going to give them the whole spiel of what they need. And that's going to include this, this, and this. And it's not their fault that this is what they're being told to do or what this is. It's just that it's almost like we chastise them for coming to us after the fact when it's like, yeah, but you weren't at that pet store. You don't work there.
They didn't know that was wrong.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So
I think like your videos of like how to get your snake out of their enclosure, how to read your snake's body language,
Good.
The what is the best pet snake for you? I think those are great. I think you're hitting the mark in what you're trying to do, because it's, those are questions that, I don't know if you got like flack for like how to get your snake out of the enclosure, but I can already hear the Facebook people like,
"Oh, are you serious?
If you don't know how to get it out, then why do you have it?"
That was exactly
like that kind of bullshit.
That's so,
But my point is just I see so many people posting on Facebook, help my snake, I'm scared I'm gonna get bit. My snake keeps striking at me. All the time people ask that. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna answer them because everybody else just tells them, just reach in and grab it. It's like, well, that's not helping because they're scared. You know what I mean? Like that's not, they need help. So let's help them.
And I don't even think it's a matter of, at least for me, right? It's always been like there's this love-hate relationship with ball pythons and me, because whenever I handle them, they bite me.
That is true.
And
There's something about them. They hate you.
Bite the shit out of me.
They piss all
They're like,
over
oh,
me.
here comes that carpet guy.
Because they're both small.
That's true.
Like,
that's very true.
And they think they can take you. That's the problem. Is like this guy's clearly a prey at him. Yeah.
He's not a monkey. He's a squirrel monkey.
But I think we lose that because it's like if anybody asked me like how do you take your snakes out, I reach in and grab them because it's just but I know my animals and I know there are certain ones where I'm like,
but how do you get to learn?
That's the problem.
So to the point,
I'm
right?
very bad at explaining.
How do you read your snake? Body language 101.
Exactly.
That's a perfect.
I can't explain that because I'm just like, look at it. It's pissed at you. Like I know that. Why don't you know that? And that's hard to kind of explain. It's like it's there, but somebody else can clearly do it, and somebody else needs to learn that.
Yeah,
maybe I'll be able to. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's the kind of thing that you learn by doing. You know what I mean? You really do, and I try to emphasize that in my videos. Like I'm telling you all this, but really the way to get comfortable is just with the body language thing, watching your animal a lot. You know what I mean? The more you interact and watch it, the more you're going to pick up on those cues. And with the getting your snake out, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it, the more comfortable. But the goal is just to kind of jumpstart the process. You know what I mean? Like, so that instead of you not cleaning your snake's cage for 3 weeks because you're scared to reach in there, like at least maybe you can get there a little faster. It's not to substitute the experience because that's really where you're going to get most of your knowledge is just by doing and trying and seeing and watching. But just giving people that little bit of a handhold, you know what I mean? Like, so they don't have to jump off, like, you know, it's just like little arm floaties. Like, you got a little bit of help to get going.
Bumpers while bowling. Yeah, it's like
I think it was Phil that just talked about this on Snakes and Stogies, but like the care sheet, right? So like the care sheet is both good
and bad,
right? Because it's like it's good for you. Somebody has to have some type of reference in order to keep the snake. But I think the bad part of it is that you think, you know, I equate it to baking a cake. You're not baking a cake. You know, there's going to be factors that come into play that may change how you approach taking care of this animal, because, you know, where I'm at is going to be different than where you're at, you know, and like those things, where you're keeping it in your house, in your room, all those things come into play on how you're going to be successful. So I think like maybe we have to do a better job with care sheets in the way that like understanding the fundamentals of what you have to hit. Like what really do you have to do in order to keep this reptile healthy and happy, not just, you know, 90-degree baskings, but you know what I mean? Like,
exactly. And that's where I think the natural history stuff is so important. And that's why I think it should be emphasized so much more than it often is, because we don't, like, if you look at like a basic care sheet, it's never framed in like a natural history or like a natural environment standpoint. It's always just like temperatures 80 to 90,
how to
humidity
keep it alive.
50 to 60, like all this stuff. But if you frame it in a way where it's a story, like, okay, like this snake comes from this region. In this region, these are the temperatures during the summer, but the snake often burrows. So its preferred temperatures are this and this, or between this and you know what I mean? If we frame it in a way where it gives context to the things that we're talking about, and it's not just like these arbitrary numbers. Well, who decided 80 to 90 is the best gradient, or who decided 75% humidity? Like, where did we get these from? I don't know. So if we give the context for it, I think not only does it lend, first of all, credence to the care sheet, so it's not just made up numbers, but it also lets people see why. And then when you kind of see why, it makes it easier to understand why adjusting things sometimes is necessary. You know what I mean? And why it isn't also cut and dry, because it's taking it away from the recipe, right? And it's making it more like a living environment. You know what I mean? Just like the world that we live in is living and changing, the world they live in can live and change too, and should, to get everything right. So I don't know. That's kind of why I loved the rough scale episodes you guys did, because you guys talked so much about the natural history, and that to me is like perfect, because that's what I try to do is, you know, try to take from that to figure out what my snakes actually need.
Yeah. Care sheets should be written off of the natural history more, as opposed to like the captive care, because captive care is basically, this is what we've done, and the animal is still alive in its little box. So
you have my brain going, right?
Oh,
because
no.
you're set like key triggers are popping in my head. And like, I'm thinking like, I wonder if like how you're saying about the care sheet and making it about what this animal's going through in a day-to-day,
season by season,
you know, it's day-to-day life, right? Season by season, whatever, temperatures, this, that, and the other, and putting context to it. I wonder if people would not think of it as a disposable pet if that was, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I saying that right? So it gives a little more.
It gives it a story, and once it has a story, it's and to me, it was, by the way, totally coincidence. I did a video on the rough scales, but it was like, it just happened to be like a week right after you guys did your rough scale podcast. But I'd been preparing for my video for like weeks, and I was like, they're going to think I copied them.
We do.
But I did get a few key points, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
But I know I wanted to tell the story of that snake, because like, for me, that's the reason that I keep snakes, is because it's like, wow, I can't believe it's not just a snake. And again, I have a rack system. I'm nothing against racks, but to me, it's not just a pretty thing that I'm looking at. It's like a privilege to have it in my house. Like it kind of like having a child in a way. Like the snake didn't ask to be born, and it didn't ask to be in my care, but it is. And it's this piece of nature and this awesome thing that has evolved for, the rough scale millions of years to do exactly what it does, and have, just this fit in this place into an ecological system. And it's so interesting to me. Like that's what I appreciate about it. And so it's almost like I'm like worshiping the animal. Like I'm like, I want you to have all the good things. Like, what can I do for you? Please let me let me serve you, because it is like I'm privileged to be able to have it in my house and to be able to see it every day. And I think that if you frame things like you're saying in a way where people get that connection, that story, that even the Brettles, they're not that rare or anything, but like, how cool is it that they live in that little island surrounded by desert in the middle of Australia, and they can get down to the 40s or high 30s in temperature or whatever it is. And they're so cool and confident, and they just come out and sit, and they don't care about anything. They're just chilling. They're themselves. Like, they're so cool. And if you emphasize that about them, not just, oh, it's an animal that is easy to take care of and it only eats once every week, and it's pretty, you got to morph. You know what I mean? If you emphasize how cool they are and how special it is to have it, and what's unique about them, and where they're from, and all the different things about where they live, I just think people will, like you said, they won't, it's not going to be like a goldfish or like something that they're putting up on Craigslist next week because they got tired of it, or the light bulb burned out and they're too lazy to go buy a new one or whatever.
Right. Well, and also I think maybe it'll even kind of get like we were talking about with your bearded dragon living to like 17. It would also, some animals might actually start living longer if you had a care sheet that also told you that, like, hey, in October, turn off the heat and put an extra layer of mulch and leave your corn snake alone for a couple months. Like, they'll start kind of living out their lives as they should and go longer, and they won't just spend their entire lives at summer degree temperatures packing on pounds. So it might even do that for them too.
To your point with the roughy, and it's a privilege to have them. And I think probably from like my perspective, and probably Owen's too, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Like, roughies and I are kind of weird, right? That was an animal that you could only dream of even seeing, not even keeping, just seeing, like, just to be able to like touch put it. Your like, holy shit, this is a rough scale python. And like, I think a lot of times that people don't appreciate, it's like this thing that we have in us to, like, what's the next thing, and it's like you at least for me, right? It's always like, okay, I got that. It's checked off the list. What's next? What's next? I got to get this next, and it's like, no, take a minute. Enjoy what you got.
Take a minute and enjoy what you have, because last year, that snake that's in that box right now, you felt that way about the snake that you're trying to get now. You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't know. So
yeah, you have to like,
and then what had to happen to get that animal into captivity? I mean, come on.
Oh yeah,
that's the best part.
The other thing.
I mean, it's just crazy.
When I made that rough scale video, and I talked about, I don't know if you guys watched it, but I basically went through the whole the story, and then I went through, just what all my favorite unique, because that's the other thing, is the story of them in captivity, or getting them into captivity, is so cool. But then their evolutionary story is so cool. All the unique adaptations they have. And I mean, I'm not like huge on YouTube or anything. I don't get millions of views, but I had like at least one person comment and be like, I'd seen rough scaled, and I kind of always thought it was just like a brown looking carpet python, but wow, this is like, they're so cool. I'm going to try to get one now. And I was like, that's exactly what I wanted. Like, I want somebody to be like, oh my God, that animal is way cooler than I thought it was. And now I want to have that in my house too. So I can look at it every day and think about all the cool things about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the issue that, let's say, hobbyists have with pet keepers, right, is that we're looking at that animal as a predator that has a certain respect that it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's a predator in its environment. It commands a certain respect, and we don't look at it necessarily as a pet because we're trying to have it be like this piece of Australia in our house, right? You know, and I think when you put a hat on it, it kind of takes away from the, you know what I mean? And I think that's where I don't think that people really care that you can put a hat on, mustache or whatever. I don't know. Oh, and it upsets you more than anybody I know.
Because it's not that's degrading to the ant. Like you said, it's a predator. Come on.
It takes away something from it.
It's
you know, like if you had like a saltwater crocodile, you had a little mustache on the front of it or something. Well, I don't know.
It's like a little patronizing or something, you know?
If you can put a small mustache and a top hat on a saltwater crocodile, more power to you. Because one of those days you're going to go do it and you're not going to come out of there okay. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm curious, like, how's your setup for your roughies? Like, what's your approach?
So, the other thing regarding care sheets, I also have made a pledge to myself. I'm never going to do a care video. This is how you care for something.
Okay.
But I will tell people how I care for things, if that makes sense.
I love that.
This is how I do it.
That's how it should be.
Don't do it this way. Yeah. But like, so I pretty much have kept him like I keep all my other, honestly, pretty much all my snakes. I kind of have the same way. I'm in Georgia, so my humidity is pretty high, normal, mid to high all the time, even in this house. In the summer, in the winter, it gets a little cool, so I wet the bedding. I keep on Repti chip, so I wet the bedding every now and then to bump it up a little bit. But it's pretty much right now he's in a 2x2 cube from Black Box Cages, and he's got like a PVC shelf that goes about like halfway. So it's kind of just like a second level. And I've also got some of those magnetic ledges that are like rocky looking. So he gets to be a rock chondro on his little rock.
Yeah.
And I've got some specialty enclosure designs, the mounted hides, which he pretty much spends all of his time in.
Yeah.
And then like I said, I have a rack that I quarantine stuff in, and I was keeping some baby stuff in, but now I've moved them all to cages. But there was the tub perches, that specialty that David Brahms makes. I have those, but I've just used them to be ladders up to that second level. And they always sit on those at night. I don't know why they seem to love sitting on them at like that angle. And so I've got that. I've got a big water dish, a bunch of hides, fake plants. And then I do have UVB on him. I've got an Arcadia 7% UVB shade dweller, I think it's called. And then I've got a heat lamp. So I'm trying that out. Some of my other snakes, I have radiant heat panels, and that's it. And LED lights. So when I got that set of cages, I did that set with that to see kind of how it did. And it was kind of on a trial basis just to see how it worked in my house. And if I think when I do upgrade everything, I am going to go that route, but I didn't want to just switch everything over blindly, not knowing if it was going to work. Because like you said, I mean, we all have our own setups, our own houses, and, you know, in a sense, there's a little bit of that, like, you know, why fix it if it ain't broke kind of mentality. Yeah. Like, I haven't killed anything so far, so if I suddenly change everything, like, who knows what's going to happen? So I did 2 cages like that to see if it would be successful, and so far it has been. It's been about 6 months that they've been in there, and they haven't died yet. So that seems like a good sign. I do see him out basking every now and then under that UVB. And temperature-wise, it's like, so I cut everything off at night. So my house is kind of cool. So it gets down to like 72, 73 in the cages. And then I say cool. That's cool to me. I would rather it be 74. I fight with my fiance about that. So it gets down to that in the middle of the night. And then when the lights cut back on, I think the hot spot, like if he's right under the heat lamp, gets probably to like 88, maybe 90. Yeah. And then the ambient's like 80 or so at the peak of the day, you know, when it's all built up in there, and then it cools off again at night. So
yeah, I would say
I'm curious, like I have, I'm curious. I have that kind of sort of a setup with diamond pythons. Do you notice that they come out at a specific time in the day, or is it like that they're basking in that UV?
He for sure comes out pretty routinely right around dusk, like when the light's still on though.
Mm-hmm.
So he comes out and gets under the heat and will sit there. And oftentimes also in the morning, I've noticed that he'll still be out when the light has come on. Okay. And then he goes and hides. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like that dawn and dusk period. They seem to stay out to get the sun. At least, I mean, again, I'm assuming that's what they do in my little 2x2 cube in my room. They're getting the sun. But he does get under. Most often, I don't see him directly under the UV. The way I have it is the UV is on one side and then the heat is in the middle. So he has a side where he can get the same temperatures without any UV. And then he has a side where he can get that temperature, but with UV. And most often I see him on the side without the UV.
Okay.
But I do also occasionally see him on the side with the UV and like not even really under the heat, which makes me think he's seeking out the UV specifically.
Gotcha.
But again, it's all
I'm
inferring things from, you know what I mean? Who really knows? But that's what I observe. So all I can go off of is what I observe. But
nice. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I would say that I see my guy, my one guy I have one in a cage, and then I have one in a 15 quart tub right now, but that's tall. I would say my male is usually out at dusk, but he spends most of his life in that ceiling hide from specialty enclosures. He just does. They love being really up high and really jammed into really tight places. So he'll come out, and then I have that fake rock, and he'll hang off that rock and kind of chill, bask, and that's where he does his hunting. But then the female, the little girl, I have those 3D printed perches. She's on there 24 hours a day. Yeah, like that's where she is. So
I think for me, like the early days of NPR, right, where I really screwed things up was like the whole, I'm keeping a semi-arboreal snake, but they don't need to
They don't need to move. They don't need to climb.
They don't want to perch.
They don't want to be up high.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You idiot. Their whole natural history is based off of being around trees. What are you talking about? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you live and you learn.
Mine are, every snake that I have is a semi-arboreal species, except for I have one king snake. And none of mine rest on the ground.
Yeah.
Not a single one. They all, but I have shelves. So, I mean, it's not like they're always on a branch, but they're always off the ground. They come down at night and roam around. But like in terms of like where they nap or where they are during the day, or even where they like ambush or whatever, it's always off the ground.
Yep, I would agree. It's either on, because I have the big bins, so I don't put, because I got my cages years ago and I didn't put shelves in them or anything like that. So I got the big tough totes as their hide boxes, and they use that as kind of like a movable shelf, because they'll move it and they'll sit on top of it and do all that fun stuff. Like you said, 99% of the time they're on top of the bin, curled up, and if they're hiding, they're inside the bin. Like you need to go down there at nighttime and turn on the lights, and that's when they're all going to be on the ground cruising around. So yeah.
I'm curious, another misconception that say new keepers or pet keepers have about snakes in general, I think, is feeding. Do you do anything specific as far as feeding? Do you cycle feed? Do you approach it in a different way?
I feed way less than what the typical pet keeper is told. You know, I think most people get told you feed your snake once a week. I think that's pretty across the board what big people tell you to do.
Yeah.
I feed much less than that. Even my babies that I get that are very young, I feed every 2 weeks. Maybe if I'm just if it happens to be convenient and they seem super hungry, I might feed them once a week or something. It's not like I'm against that, but I tend to space it out more. And so that's a big difference. And then my older snakes, like, you know, my 3-year-old Brettles or whatever, every month you're getting a rat. So enjoy it while it lasts.
Yep.
I haven't intentionally really done any cycle feeding in terms of like stopping feeding altogether for several months. Although I do plan to do that. I toyed with the idea of kind of doing it from the get-go, which I think is something that maybe you do, Eric, or maybe you do it with temperatures.
Yeah.
You drop everybody's temperatures. But
I do. However I treat
it.
my adults, I treat the babies. Yeah.
I toyed with the idea of doing that, but I chickened out. So I just got paranoid. I was like, I'm gonna kill it. So I don't, but I do temperature cycle in a very general sense of everything gets a night drop. Year round. I don't have anybody that's on like a year round, it's always warm kind of thing. Everybody gets a night drop year round, and I kind of let the house itself do the
dropping
seasonal. So I'm not, and I'm at the point where I'm a little bit more close to being able to breed. All my stuff is too young now for the most part. I'll figure out how I'm going to do the actual like getting it down cool enough for like the bread lie, which I think is going to be the hard part, but I'll just follow Casey's lead on that, I guess. But aside from that, with feeding, I do a little bit of the target training. I'm pretty close with Lori Tarini.
Okay.
And I try to do the target training. I feel like I'm not good at it. And but I feel like it's my fault. I feel like my snakes are actually pretty good at it. I'm just bad and like just frazzled around feeding time because I don't have a great setup right now in my house. Everything is in different rooms, and like my kitchen is over there. And so I'm always like walking back and forth, and like I'm all over the place when I'm trying to feed. So I'm always like carrying things like under my arm and like trying to finagle stuff to get like, I'm like opening the lock with the tongs and the rat under my arm, and like the rat's falling on the floor. Like I need to get like a cart or something.
My
just, like,
God, yes. just one, like, I never wanted a cart. And then Eric's like, I got a new cart. Do you want my old one? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. And now I'm like, I love you, cart.
Yeah,
like you just need a cart.
It's the greatest reptile thing ever.
It's honestly ridiculous the way that I'm like walking around. Like I have stuff like under my ear. It's bad.
I used to bring buckets up and downstairs. So like snake rooms need a sink, snake rooms need a cart, and you need one of those big butcher paper rollers that you can just like unroll and slice. And that all this stuff that like I used to make fun of Eric for, and I'm like, it's so much easier.
And see, working at the facility that I work at, I really see how you can make things functional. You know what I mean? On a large scale.
Sure.
When you're working with thousands of animals, it has to be functional and efficient or it doesn't get done. So I see all that.
But then you come home to chaos. I don't understand. Why haven't you?
It's honestly, it's my house and the layout of it. It's just not cohesive. And I have a cat, and she's way too interested in the snakes. It's a whole ordeal every time I have to feed. But I try to do the target training, and my snakes have picked up to it a little bit, but I need to kind of push them a little more to get them on Lori's level, where they're like coming out and like doing like spinning in a circle before I give them the food. But I'm not quite there yet. But I'm trying to at least get them to recognize the target, so that'll helps to break the feeding response. So that in addition to, I also tap train. So I tap them before I handle them and stuff like that, just to.
I was actually thinking about starting the target training with my male false water cobra, just because he is psychotic. So, and I need something to kind of calm him down, because some dumbass here keeps feeding him and he's getting bigger. So, and it's going to end up being a problem. So I don't know who that guy is though.
Yeah. We have at work, we have a black dragon, a melanistic water monitor.
Yes.
And I'm gonna try the target training with that, because she's not afraid of, she's not skittish, but she started thinking fingers are food.
No.
So
no.
So trying to get that eliminated, I'm gonna bring a target to work. And see if
you have quickly before, like you gotta
right, exactly.
All 10 needs to be there.
Hopefully she's smart and it'll go pretty quickly.
Yeah, I almost feel like monitors would really respond to that. I mean, I've seen all this stuff of the dragons and stuff getting really good on that with zoos and things like that. So I would say that monitors have to be able to pick up on that quick.
I talked about this at the beginning of the show, and I'm telling you, not that I'm not like anti Camp Kennan or whatever. It's just not a YouTube channel that I watch, right? I don't watch it, right? And then I just, how it like recommends the thing for you and whatever. But like, you got to watch is like this. I can't remember what he called them. Maybe it was Pinky and one was
Slinky.
Pinky. Slinky and Pinky. Yeah.
Oh God.
Did you see it? Did you see what I'm talking about?
I've seen the YouTube titles before.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't really watch them either.
Okay.
Are you going to start target trading your Ackies?
Well, no, I'm just saying, man, like this enclosure so it gets my mind thinking, right? So
Yeah.
I think back to when, do you remember Owen, or I don't know if you remember Summer, but like the book, The Art of Keeping Snakes came out. Do you remember that book? So
no,
you don't have that book, Owen?
No.
How dare you?
Shut up. Hang on. No.
No. Yeah. No wonder.
Yeah, I know. Minus points.
Anyway,
yep.
When that book came out, it was way ahead of its time, like way ahead of like anything, like it was basically talking about bioactivity and like, keeping snakes in naturalistic enclosures and watching their behaviors and on all these different things. And like way before anybody was even sort of talking about this at all.
You have a green tree on it.
And, yes.
All right. And buying. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Yes. I thought it was a great book, right? Maybe but I mean, when it first came out, you couldn't even get the stuff now. And now, they're making reptile supplies that are geared towards this, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just, and I remember thinking back when that book came out that I wanted to sort of recreate some of this type of thing. Like, how cool would it be to see, your snake doing this or your snake doing that or whatever it would be. And just watching this video where I'm seeing these animals do like it, it's just really cool. And I guess my question, of the topic is like, some of those YouTube people that are doing stuff like that, they captivated my wife. My dad watches them all the time. And I'm just like, Dad, what are you doing? It's all clickbait. Like what, what are you doing? And I don't know. I don't know if that's good or I don't know if that's bad.
Yeah, sweet.
What, do you have any thoughts on it? Cause you don't do it. Jason, he doesn't do it. JK doesn't do it. So
yeah, it's a tricky thing because if you are trying to make your living off of YouTube, you have to. Right. You have to get the views or you don't get the money.
Yeah.
So for Justin, the YouTube is more of a way to help build his brand and keep his name out there and keeps his projects. It's a marketing tool. It's not a money-making tool. Correct. So for him, it's easy to say, we'll stick to business. You know what I mean? Keep it straightforward. Right. We are, like you said, kind of like his videos, they are what they are. You know what I mean? It's him talking about the snakes that he's made, sharing his knowledge about it. And we recently have branched out a little bit to doing slightly more beginner focused stuff because there is such a big group of pet keepers, or just ball pythons are the number one pet in the world. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people who are looking them up on YouTube. And so, we are trying to grow. It's, nobody just does social media and is like, I'm glad that I have 5 followers. You know what I mean? Nobody does that. Everybody wants to like get a little bit more attention and get a little bit more likes and clicks and views. So we're trying to branch out a little bit and reach those people, but also just because he has all this knowledge from 20 years of doing ball pythons. So why not share it? So we're trying to do that a little bit more. So we have been doing 2 videos every week, and it is hard to balance the sensationalism, which is kind of what we try not to do. We try not to misrepresent the animals, and we don't want to ever paint them in a negative light. And so that's really, I think, what it comes down to is just making sure that we're always presenting them in a positive, in a realistic way. Like realistically, like he has a whole video about how ball pythons are picky feeders, and he doesn't try to tell you they're not. Like he's like, I can tell you after 20 years of experience, they are picky feeders. And they go, but they go through, they naturally have that winter fast. It's just part of who they are. But here's what you can do about it. Like here's what I've learned that works. You know what I mean? Here's all the things you can try. So he's not trying to sugarcoat it and make it like ball pythons are something they're not. They are what they are, but just not presenting it in a way where my ball python ate my hand, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like
right.
just stuff that is not kind of painting them in a way that's going to be beneficial.
And I would say that's the one thing that you see brand new people ask is like, they're always concerned about like, my snake missed a meal. And it's like, all right, well, when was the last time it ate? It ate last week. Dear Lord, leave it alone. Like, it's that kind of stuff. I think if you're not prepared for the fact that these things can be picky feeders for a certain chunk of the year, certain people can get really stressed out about that kind of stuff. And you might not know that your snake is totally fine, but you're going to freak out about it. You're going to waste rodents, and you might try to do something drastic to try to get the snake to eat, and like, I don't know, throw it alive, and then have to deal with a rodent bite and things like that. So it's a lot of this stuff that, you know, I almost wish that we were able to tell people what it truly is and not scare them away. Because I almost feel like if I tell you that this is going to happen and that's going to happen and that might happen, you're going to run away, rather than just preparing you for what can happen. Like, you almost got to.
Right. Well,
yeah.
It's like me with the carpet pythons early on. People said that they were bitey and nippy, and I was like, okay, no, like that's a big nope from me. But turns out, like, okay, yeah, they can be as babies, you know, but a lot of times as adults, they chill out most of the time. And even as babies, like, it's a baby carpet. Like, it's not like it's going to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, but just the way that it was presented to me was a way that scared me off from wanting to deal with it. And so
it was almost made it like they were vicious,
right?
You know,
like, or just like, oh, it's just gonna be like a terror to deal with. Like, it's gonna be like the worst experience of your life for 2 years, and then maybe it'll calm down. And I was like, that sounds awful. I'm not a fan. But so I think definitely we have to approach, you know, sharing just the reality of the animals, because it's like dog breeds. Like, there are dogs have different qualities. You know what I mean? A German Shepherd does not have the same qualities as a Chihuahua. And it doesn't mean one is better or worse than the other, although I would say the German Shepherd's better and the Chihuahua's worse, but that's just me.
I mean, yeah, some people here have big dogs. Some people here have ankle biters.
But the point is, like, there's something out there for everyone. And that kind of was another video that I made, was like the best pet snake video, which basically told you nothing about any snakes other than
nothing. It told you nothing. Yeah.
It told you nothing other than you need to look into
what works best for you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really it, though. And I think the more that we can be realistic about the animals that we keep and share our experiences with the animals in a very real but not frightening way, just a realistic way, the better equipped people are going to be to jump into this and feel comfortable doing it, and not falling into the same traps that everybody falls into, where they're getting snakes that they're not prepared for because they bought a giant retic at a reptile show because it had a pretty color and it was cheap, or they get a green iguana and then it starts to want to kill them when it gets
its maturity. Yeah. Or they just can't keep up. I mean, yeah, you see people buy baby iguanas all the time. And I think, what was it, last year, I met somebody who actually had an adult male green iguana that had all his spikes and looked glorious. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, that's hard. Like, that is, you really,
prop to you.
Yeah, dear God. Like, it was one of those things, and certain people I just don't think are prepared for that kind of stuff. So I almost wish we could prepare without scaring people away, or just having them decide that I don't know what I'm talking about and go make that decision. But then, of course, we're also dealing with people that like to do the Hamburg special and get the retic, get the crocodile, and get the cobra, and then figure it out from there. So
I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, which brings me back to the point we were discussing earlier about highlighting all the things that are so cool about all the different species, because they're all cool in their own way, and they all have something that's, a catch about them. You know what I mean? Something that is like gray bands, that's a whole little niche within a niche and a niche, and they're all cool because, okay, well, this one looks like this and it's just from one specific road, or, you know what I mean? There's everything has its own little story. And so if you play that up and share it with people from the forefront at the top, instead of it being something that they have to dive in and wiggle around and figure out themselves, which is kind of how it is now. You kind of just weirdly end up in your weird little corner somehow, and nobody knows how they got there. If we can kind of highlight this stuff, I think people will see it, and then people won't be as inclined to make those impulse purchases, or if they do, it'll be a more informed impulsive purchase.
Right.
Yeah. I think it's funny, when we were the last night in Texas, it was me, Phil, Rob, Justin, and as the night dwindled down, it was just me, Phil, and Rob, and we were talking about music, and I said I draw so many parallels between music and reptile keeping, just because this is how my brain works. It's either music or reptiles, or reptiles.
There's really the only thing.
I'm the same. I was thinking today.
So the thing is like, I don't like the question, who is the best guitar player, right? Because to me, it's all subjective. Music is an art. It's like what you like and what sounds good to your ears may not sound good to my ears, but that doesn't make my favorite guitar player any less
gifted than yours,
your favorite guitar player. I mean, clearly there are levels of talent. I'm not saying that at all. But like when you look at somebody like, if you take Eric Clapton, who's playing one note, right? Mm-hmm. And he's playing one single note and can make you cry or be happy, or the hair on your arm stand up as he's playing that one note, as opposed to if you're listening to somebody like Steve Vai, who's playing a million notes and has the same effect. Like, why is one better than the other? So now you take that idea, right, and you apply it to reptiles. Like, we seem to have this, like, it's like this tribal thing that, like, I guess must be deep in our DNA that we can't get rid of. It's just right. And it's like, if somehow I like carpet pythons, then somehow I have to hate ball pythons.
You must.
And if I hate ball pythons, then I'm going against the norm, or what, you know what I mean? Like, screwing it to the man, or whatever it is.
Man,
like,
yeah.
And it's like, it's almost like some people like, I don't know. Some people, like, they'll go and get this rare colubrid that's just a horror to keep, right? It's a horror to feed. It's like the worst thing you could possibly get. Like, what are you doing, man? It eats lizards. It doesn't.
Why would you do this to yourself?
What are you doing? And it's just like, somehow, like, and then you're gonna, like, try to portray that somehow, this rare Asian colubrid is much better than your ball python. And it's like, really? I don't know. I just don't understand why, if one is good, one has to be bad. Like, they both can be good, but like, for one person this is good, and for somebody else this is good. For Owen, he likes to get bit.
I feel personally attacked by this conversation, being that I have rare Asian colubrids that make a mess and are horrible creatures.
But dude, listen, that's your thing.
Oh yeah,
it's not bad. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that some people would say it's bad, right?
Yeah, so like I know that most of the snakes down in my snake room are not for most people. Sometimes I look at them and I'm like, why do I do this to myself? Why do I have, like, all these animals that just want to bite me and not breed? But that's
what they like.
It's my little bit. Like. Yeah. I'm getting to the point where I'm overjoyed no matter which cage I'm in, and I'm totally cool with that. And
that's where you want to be.
Yep. And then also, like, every clutch is like, dude, I've not been this excited about babies hatching. Like, it's for these dopey little 5 Madagascar hogs that I've been like, oh yeah, I was so happy with these things. And that's weird.
Right.
If it gets to the point where I'm just like, oh, more babies, and like I throw them behind me, you need to get rid of these animals. So yeah.
So what's your plan to get those started?
I'm gonna try to put food in them. So
Owen is not good.
No, I'm really not. I fear if I ever get the team where it's like, how'd you do it? I put the male in with the female. No, it's first thing. It's same thing I did with the rhinos. It's going to be trial, and then it's going to be stepping up from there. So obviously, first thing I'm going to do is just kind of offer straight up like frozen thawed fuzzies, and then if somebody,
why not?
Yeah, if somebody takes frozen thawed fuzzies, you are my favorite. Like, and then they go over there, and they will never see anything else but frozen thawed fuzzies. But then after that, I have gecko scent, I have frog scent. I could even try live fish if I wanted to do that. We'll just keep stepping it up until eventually I get everybody. Yep.
Every trick in the bag.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I did with the rhinos. That's what I'm going to do with the rhinos this year. It's going to be like, who wants the pinkies? And then I'll have one or two that'll eat pinkies, and those get aside from my special friends. So it's right. The ones that eat the pinkies right off the bat. Everybody else, you start with the fish scented pink, and then eventually you get the live fish, and then frozen thawed fish, yada, yada, yada. Go through all that crap. So that's the plan for the Mad Hog babies.
Well, that's exciting. I don't think we can have them here. We have a weird law in Georgia where we can't have...
rear fang?
Yeah, but we can have Western hognose.
Rear fang?
I know, it doesn't really... Well, I know we can't have mangroves, and we can't have anything like that, really.
Can you have false water cobra?
No.
Okay, because I want to say that a Madagascar hognose is more like false water cobra than it is a Western hognose. Like, it's not... Yeah. If I were to put the two of them together, like I was looking at the babies and looking at my false water cobra, I'm like, yeah, I see it. Like, so...
We can have the tricolor hogs too, now that I'm thinking about it. So I don't know what it is.
Somebody who didn't know was the one who wrote all the things. It's like how I think olive pythons are technically illegal in the city of New York because somebody just looked up size. Yeah, somebody just looked up the size and went all of these, and then that was it.
Right.
So
we also can't have any native animal. Like, we can't have any native. So like I can't have a corn snake. It's so sad.
That's crazy.
Nobody wants
not even like an albino one or
nope, it doesn't.
Jersey.
A lot of people have asked for that to be like amended or whatever because it makes no sense. But no, nothing. It doesn't matter if it's a morph.
Weird, because I know New Jersey, it has to have red eyes, or it has to be like an albino, or it has to have red eyes. It cannot have natural eyes.
It's funny. Owen says to me. Yeah, Owen says to me, I was looking into getting DK snakes. He's like, I don't know if you can have them. I don't know if you can have them. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, why couldn't I have them? I have carpet pythons and scrub pythons. Like, what would... He's like, because they're native.
They're native.
I'm like, I never even, because I've always dealt with exotics that...
Yeah. Well, and I only say that because I put in my breeder's license and I put down all the crazy shit that I got. And the one thing I got flagged on is my black rat snakes. They were like, what are these? I'm like, they're just white-sided black rat snakes. They're like, okay. All right. And I'm like, okay.
The really strange thing is the exception to the native rule in Georgia is venomous. So if you want to have a native venomous, you're good to go. I think it's because of the rattlesnake roundup. But yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Now
like if you want a copperhead, perfect. But corn snake, nope.
Yeah, we're allowed one venomous per person in PA, technically.
I think it's some...
Or copperheads. I'm sorry, you're one copperhead per person.
And one timber rattlesnake.
One timber rattlesnake per person in your house. Yep.
One.
Just one. One per person.
That's it. You can field collect it.
Yep. Just only one. Yep.
I think at some point we're gonna go herping down there in Georgia and Florida. Like,
yes.
Well, let me know. I can't say that I know any good spots, but I would love to tag along.
It's why we have Rob. Yeah. He'll find the spots for us.
Yes. Everybody needs a Rob Stone.
Everybody needs a Rob Stone. Yeah.
So before Owen asked you the closing questions, I was going to ask you, how was the NARBC and what is it? Schaunsburg? Is that how you say it?
Schaunsburg.
Did I say that right?
Yeah. So it was kind of like the Tinley do-over for like all the ones that they've missed. I've never been to an NARBC before, so I've had them really high on a pedestal for, I would like wait for somebody to put out a vlog after they went, to see, because I was like living vicariously through everybody else all the time. So I was really excited for it. And to me, honestly, it wasn't a letdown. It just wasn't as big and crazy as I kind of expected, but I think it was because a couple of factors. I think the time of the year, it's June, so a lot of stuff isn't hatched yet or isn't ready to go. Second of all, it was on Father's Day weekend.
Ooh,
so
yeah, that was
not really a great
That's
weekend.
a tough one.
And then also just the venue change. It was in a different part of town than normal.
Right.
And like also not at the normal March or October. So I think just all those factors, but it was still a really good show. And it was the best reptile show I've ever been to. Granted, I've only ever been to like random local Repticons, or we used to have another one that I think is now not happening anymore in Georgia. But so it was definitely the best reptile show I've ever been to. And I got to see Psychotic Exotic. So I got to see some cool carpets, which was awesome. And I know Casey picked up a bunch of stuff. So I'll let him tell y'all about that. But I saw Billy Hunt too. I got to meet Billy Hunt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I got to meet Ralph Polinsky, who I've got my roughies from. So that was awesome. And I know you guys had Mike awesome from Mike's Monitors on here not too long ago. So I got to meet. For me, the really fun part about it was the socialization, getting to meet a lot of people. I got to hang out with Garrett of Reach Out Reptiles. I'm repping his shirt right now. Who is somebody that I've, become friends with, and he's mentored me a little bit on the Super Dwarf stuff. So really excited to kind of get to hang out with people and make friends in real life that I've kind of been stalking online for years. And and yeah, there was some awesome animals, and it was so fun just to see kind of the caliber of some of the booths and the excitement of it all. And I was working too. I was vending with Justin. So I was doing the merch tables. So I never vended a show before. So that was kind of a new experience for me. Just getting to sit behind the table and kind of experience it on that level and get to walk around and say hi to people. So it was really fun. I had a great time, and I'm excited to hopefully go back for the actual Tinley in October.
Yeah. I keep.
Are they having October Tinley?
They're
assuming they are.
Yeah,
right?
they're having it.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as unless something weird happens, God forbid.
I don't know, man. Right. I keep thinking about how I'm just going to fly down to Daytona for the weekend.
Yeah, I've thought about that as well.
Yeah.
I thought about that as well.
I'm not going to lie.
It's just far enough of a drive for me that it like makes me not want to do it. I think it's like a 10 or 11 hour drive. And it's like, I don't know.
Wow.
I could do it, but I don't know if I want to.
Wow. I might. I'm jonesing for some kind of reptile interaction. Of course, we might hang out like next week, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm tired of people. So I don't know. it comes and it goes. So we'll see how.
I recorded a video, I recorded a vlog kind of thing at Schaumburg, and I actually recorded two, because I recorded one for Justin, and then I recorded one for myself. And then after the whole kind of me not being really a true extrovert, kind of faking being an extrovert for a whole weekend, and then editing one vlog about it, I still haven't put mine together, and it's going to be coming out in like 6 months when nobody cares, because I'm just like, ugh.
When did that show happen? Wait, what?
Yeah,
wait a minute. Just wait till October Tinley
3 years ago.
Yeah, just put it out in October, and then you just fake it as that one. So there you go.
Cool.
God. All right. Well, I guess we'll just hit on the closing questions. So let's start with, if you could go herping anywhere in the world, where would you want to go, and what would you be hoping to find?
I'm joining in on the Ruffy trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would be
Kimberly.
Yeah, that would be super cool to go to the Kimberly and see him in the wild. But honestly, anywhere in Australia, I think would be cool. I know everybody says that, but I mean, come on, how can you not? I mean,
it was
just,
yeah.
So I'm sure you guys
Australia.
understand. And then also, I do think that I would like to go to like Costa Rica or somewhere like that, like a little more tropical, and see some boas and all that kind of thing. That would be cool for me too. So so somewhere like Central or South America or Australia, which, I mean, those are probably the two most popular answers, but that's where I'm at.
They are, but that's the problem, is I think I'd be happy anywhere. Cool snakes.
It would also, I will say, it would be really cool to go to one of the tiny little Indonesian islands and see the little tiny retics.
little baby retics. Yeah. All right.
Do you have a favorite locale that you would want to
see? Well, honestly, any of them, but I think the Karampas, they're the smallest the smallest locality, and they are. I'm not even sure that they really exist in the wild. I think that they might have been like all the farming or whatever, like the tree. I don't know, like deforestation and stuff might have happened. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Now, if you could keep any reptile and you wouldn't have to worry about price, legality, or any of those other things, what would it be and why?
All right. It's again. Okay, I have two.
Okay.
Rhino iguana.
Oh, Jesus.
And I just think it's like a dog that eats lettuce. And then
a leathery dog that eats lettuce. Yeah.
Yeah. And then again, this is probably going to be like the number one thing that you guys hear. Well, I will say this.
All right.
Two of my dream animals that I already have them, which is the super dwarf retic and the rough scale python.
That happens.
So
and then you have to shift.
Got those. Yeah. But Boland's python. And I'm very lucky in that I get to work with one. Okay. So I'm not saying this out of like, I'm saying this because everybody thinks they're cool and I think they're cool too because everybody thinks they're cool. They are cool. And I want one. Like, yeah. So like they are so cool. I know you guys have gone to Keith's, right?
Yeah. And his one female, she
didn't try to bite you.
She struck at me, but she didn't open her mouth. She just hit me with her head, and I'm pretty sure I saw Jesus. So it was.
She had a big head, man.
Oh God, yeah.
That
they have huge heads.
No, that was enough for me. Yeah. They're gorgeous, but no.
Well, ours are both very. I mean, I'm sure they can get feisty like anything else, and especially if it's like feeding time, but. They're like you open the door and they climb onto you.
Yeah.
Like it's everybody that has ever come and interacted with them has gone home and like obsessed over them for months just because they have like one person at the show at Schaumburg, shout out to Jason Abraham. He's a nice guy. He was like, this is embarrassing, but I had dreamed about that snake. Like he literally went home and dreamed about it. Because to me, it's, and the funny thing is, the first time I saw one, I was at the zoo. And they had a big, giant Boland's on exhibit at the Atlanta Zoo. And I saw it, and I have pictures and videos on my phone from when I saw that years and years ago, like 5 or 6 years ago. And I never heard of them. And I was like, what is this? Like, I never heard of this species. And so I took a picture and I took a video and I was like, I'm gonna look this up when I get home and like see if anybody has them in Georgia and I can get one. And little did I know, like I had no idea what they are. And I Googled them and I found the first thing I found was Ari's page where he's like pictures of him like with the indigenous people. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? What the hell is this? Yeah. But yeah, so I'm gonna say a Boland's. I would love to have one of my own and like just get a room in my house and give it a giant amazing setup and just bask in its glory.
Like, what's this? This is the rainforest room where I keep my Boland eye. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I don't need children. I have this.
It's like a rainforest grove with a chair in the middle. It's like that's where I sit.
Somebody, I don't know where. I think maybe I saw it on YouTube. Maybe it was Facebook. But there's somebody that keeps his retic in this room size enclosure, and it's like
I think you need that.
It's yeah, but. Dude, it's like they grew trees in the room and stuff.
Cool.
Like,
oh, you know what? I have seen that too, and I don't know who it is.
Yeah,
but I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's very impressive. You're like, holy shit! I guess that's how a retic should be kept.
I might have to get there. You know, somebody keeps feeding my retic.
I keep forgetting you have retic.
I have one. I have
just the one now.
One retic. Yeah, the other ones are gone. They were not nice and kept breaking the glass on their cages.
Like which next thing you know, they break out of your house through the window.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm waiting for. So no, I have one retic because I'm not allowed to sell that retic.
Well, your tortoise, like, doesn't he go for walks down the street?
Well, no. Listen, he wasn't supposed to go for a walk down the street, but the sulcata
sounds like somebody built a shitty fence.
Shut up. I built an amazing fence. He's just an a-hole. Sure. Yeah, the tortoise got out and was found 2 blocks away. All right, what do you want from me?
Did they know it was yours? How did they know it was yours?
Somebody texted my neighbor, and they're like, "Does your neighbor like have a turtle?" And she's like, "Yes." And then she texted me. She said, "Your tortoise is out." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" So then I ran out back, and when you run out back and your tortoises escape, there's usually a crowd, and there was. So I ran towards the crowd, and I got to see his ass end kind of running around the corner. And
I was gonna say you're forever the tortoise guy now.
Yep,
like
now,
if you weren't already the snake guy, you're the tortoise guy.
And that was the funny thing. I come running up, and there's this one woman holding a yellow bag, and he keeps moving towards her. And I'm like, I know what he's looking for food, and you have a yellow bag, and that's what's going on here. And she's like, "Is it dangerous?" I'm like, "Is it fucking what? It's a tortoise." Are you a vegetable? Then no.
Wait, what is the yellow bag? Like, do you feed him out of a yellow bag or something?
Anything yellow or red, they're like a laser beam onto that shit. If you ever watch like at the zoo, they'll bring out yellow buckets and all the tortoises will start wandering towards it. So
wow,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah, I had to pick him up and walk his 60-something pound ass back to the house. And
you should have gotten the bag and just lured him.
Yeah, no, just come here. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not waiting. I had to leave work. I wasn't waiting that long. Come here. Yeah, pick him up, throw him.
What do you mean leave work? That's your couch. What are you talking about?
No, I work. This is. Go
work is a
ShopRite and do your rounds. You face the store yet? Jesus.
Yeah,
mean. Anyway,
so parents are fighting. Don't pay attention.
In front of the children.
Feels like home.
Yeah. All right. Well, the last one.
So, how do people get in touch with? Oh, wait. Did you have another?
There's one last. Jesus Christ! 12 fucking years of this show. Will you shut up and let me do it?
God, I'm sorry.
More fighting. Anyway,
I'm gonna start slipping my little requests for animals under y'all's doors.
That's how that happens.
I want a Bolin's python.
No.
$10,000. Hand it over.
All right. Now, what will you be adding anything to your collection in this coming year? I know you said the female rough scale, but is there anything else that you have your eye on?
Yeah. So I've got the female roughie, and then I've got another super dwarf retic coming, which I'm pretty excited about. I'll be doing a video about that, and I'll do a video about the rough scale too. And other than that, since I'm getting married, and that's expensive, I probably no, unless something falls into my lap that is way too good to pass up. Casey does have a clutch of hypo stonewash Reynolds that they just laid. And so that is very tempting. But I'm trying, like I said, I try really hard to move slowly so that I am purposeful and have plans for everything. And I'm not just sitting there one day in a room full of snakes. Like, what did I do? Which I still sometimes lay in bed and I'm like, why do I have snakes in my house? Like, what am I doing? But yeah, so those are my plans for now. My plans for sure are I've got the 2 that are on the way, and I'm going to try to keep that what it is for now and then reevaluate. I think after we're going to try to buy a house after we get married. So that'll be a time when I can really start to kind of see what I'm able to get more of, because I'm kind of tapped out on space right now.
It's fun house hunting when you're a reptile person, because they're like, what's important to you? I'm like, basement. With electricity.
Basement.
Like plumbed basement with electricity. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like, I need a sink.
And be ready to have the fight where the basement's perfect, but the kitchen sucks. And you're like, I don't need to eat that much.
In there. Why do you want that?
We get takeout all the time anyway.
It's fine.
There's so much room for activity. Oh, man.
Awesome. All right, Eric, now you can go.
Oh, so if somebody wants to get in touch with you or follow you, what's all your how can they do that? How can they
so I am at Girl with Scales, which was one of my screen names on the forums back in the day. I just copied it for Instagram. I'm at Girl with Scales on Instagram, and also Girl with Scales on YouTube. And then on Facebook, my name is Summer Grace Mitchell. You're welcome to add me. Just don't murder me.
Okay.
Just ask that you please not kill me. Oh, all right. It's a good one.
Well, it's been great having you on, and great chatting with you, and good conversation.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And like I said, I owe a lot of my my venture down the Morelia road to you guys. So big honor to be on here, and thank you guys for what you do.
No, totally. And it's definitely keep up the good work with all the YouTube videos and all the other stuff. And, yeah, totally awesome.
100%.
Let me know if you want a ball python. I can hook you up.
No. And now you've lost me. So, you were doing so well.
All right, we'll close it out real quick and then we'll get going. All right, for us, info@MoreliaPythonRadio.com. You can get in touch with us. And if you want to follow, I'm just going to make it real simple. MoreliaPythonRadio.com is where you can get everything you need to know about us and all the podcasts and all that stuff and the network and everything. And so don't forget to listen to the new episode that has dropped of the Field Herping podcast. It's definitely different than podcasts that are out there, but if you're into field herping, I think you'll enjoy it. And we talked to, like I said, Lou Boyer, and it was a good conversation with him, even though I didn't really talk to him. It just sounds like
Nipper did that. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
So if you want to do that, that's where you would follow us. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and go over and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Morelia Python Radio Network.
Cool.
That's all I got.
Yep. And then go check out the Teespring store. Make sure you become a patron on the Patreon page at the inland carpet level. If you're on the inland
Speaking
level,
of which, we have to do. We're gonna have
do
to
a
make
thing
that
you're
up.
doing.
We're gonna have to do. Yeah, we have to do it. So
talk to the interns.
At a date
you
get
just
that
yell
going.
at the interns. Get them to do stuff.
Yeah.
Worthless.
Damn interns.
What's it? The one intern got an intern. When did that happen? And when did we allow that to happen?
I don't know.
God damn it.
You're running them. I don't know.
My father yesterday was like, I used to be an intern. I'm like, what? No, you didn't. So now he's all depressed. So anyway, I'll have to. Swift justice must be dispatched upon the interns. What I'm thinking.
Wait, I do. I do have one real quick little tidbit. So I went to visit my parents tonight, and my dad was making fun of me about something because I told him, like, he kept talking to me about reptiles and whatnot, and I said, nah, Dad, I really want to stick with just Australian stuff. That's kind of like my thing. I'm trying to slim down the collection and just have Australian stuff. So I told him about the rhino rat.
No.
And I said, so he's like, oh, that's a cool snake. Where's that from? And I was like, not Australian.
China.
He's like, I'm coming on the show and I'm going to rip you apart. And I said, Owen would love that.
He would.
Because
it only ever goes one way.
I said, he's so sick of his dad ripping him. We need a new dad to rip us.
I need somebody else to get ripped on. Yeah. Yeah.
So when we have that little get together on Saturday, he's going to be there.
Nice. Anyway, so definitely go do that. Check out, I already said, the Teespring store, Patreon, so you can go and access the monthly show that is just me, Eric, and the interns talking about whatever. Carpets and Coffee is on Fridays now, right?
Yeah, Fridays.
I'm actually going to be on this one this week, I think. So,
oh boy,
I know.
Are we privileged?
Sure. You're damn right. Every once in a while, I come down from on high and grace you people.
I see that.
Anyway,
join us.
Stop. All right. For Eric, you can go to ebmorelia.com and check out everything is EB Morelia. For me, you can go to rogue-reptiles.com, everything else that's on for Rogue. And that's all we have for you guys tonight. So we'll say thanks.
Wait,
what?
Riley's Reptiles.
No plugs for interns.
Come on.
Fine.
Riley's Reptiles. God. Go check out his YouTube channel too, and then you got Lucas.
Other one. What's his name?
Centralian Exotics.
The other one. What? The Lucas. Yeah. So
I think it's like Eric and Owen Part 2.
It very much is.
It's almost like
very much is, because every once in a
while,
it's
very funny how that works.
I see Riley and him talking, and I'm like, "Damn, dude, Riley is. Oh my god, it's me." So yeah, it's.
He's ready to break somebody.
He's ready to rip something in half, and Lucas is like, "Well, if we all just kind of come together, it's like, shut up, you!" Like, yeah, that's. Anyway, we don't play
NPR.
We don't play favorites with the interns. or do we? So, all right, that's all we have for everybody tonight. We'll say thank you all for listening, and we'll catch everybody back here next week for some more Morelia Python Radio. Good night.